My Atlanta Dream starting five. Haley Jones at the 1, Alicia Gray at the 2, Ryan Howard at the 3, Monique Billings at the 4, and Cheyenne Parker at the 5. Now, my bench unit for the Dream, Ari McDonald at the 1, Danielle Robinson at the 2, A.D. Durr at the 3, Nia Coffey at the 4, and Nas Hillman at the 5. Now, this Atlanta Dream team is quite interesting, I got to admit. The starting unit, it's 11 out of 12 for me. The bench unit, however, is 8 out of 12 for me. And fun fact, I like my teams with a little height on them. They're the fifth tallest team in the WNBA. Now, when I'm looking at those box scores, right, like points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, I'm using that as to answer, like to state what my statement is going to be next, right? They're one of the better offensive and defensive teams. The main knock against them, the inefficiency from the 3-point line in comparison to the other WNBA teams, and the fact that they're one of the younger teams in the WNBA. So again, this is one of the most interesting teams I gotta say. And they got a couple X factors for this season. You got Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. They're both two-way elite wings. And if we pay attention to the NBA season, right? Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they've been doing quite well. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, if they were ever healthy, they would do pretty decently. Braun and D-Wade didn't do that bad. MJ and Pippen didn't do too bad. Like, two-way wings might not be a bad idea, right? I'd assume there'd be some success in the WNBA as well. And we could have that, again, with these two-way elite wings. And then factoring in the recently drafted Haley Jones. She's a big guard, literally a big guard. 6 foot, plays the 1. Well, now what that does is it allows the Dream to play small ball. You can have Haley Jones at the 2 or 3. You can have more guards inserted. You can be more mobile. Ryan Howard can slide down to the 4. Alicia can slide down to the 3. There's a lot of things you can do with this Dream team. Again, the main knocks are the inefficiency from the 3 ball and the experience factor. This is a relatively young team, and it was kind of put together kind of recently. Haley Jones is new. Alicia Gray is new. And I just said they were my X factors. So clearly it's going to take some time. But again, this is an interesting team. So definitely stay tuned. And Atlanta, congratulations. You finally stopped dreaming. My Chicago Sky starting five. Rebecca Gardner at the 1. Marina Mabrey at the 2. Kalia Copper at the 3. Isabel Harrison at the 4. Elizabeth Williams at the 5. And my bench unit is Courtney Williams at the 1. Dana Evans at the 2. Anelli Maley at the 3. Ruthie Herbert at the 4. Alana Smith at the 5. Now, this Sky team is not the same Sky team we're used to, right? We saw Candace Parker, Allie Quigley, Courtney Vandersloot, Kalia Copper was Finals MVP 2 seasons ago. It's tough. That's a lot to be depleted, right? And then when I'm looking at this starting unit, it's a little bit different. So for me, they're 9th, but then their bench, 10th. All right. And fun fact, they're 6th in terms of height. I like my teams with a little height on. Gotta have some height on your squad. That's just my personal opinion. Now, when I'm looking at their box scores, right, points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, all that good stuff, I'm basing those stats for my statement I'm about to make. They're not really too good offensively. Like, it might be a little struggle for them, not gonna hold you. And then free throws. Free throws look a little bit abysmal, not gonna hold you. So if we're talking about a team that can't score, and then you can't hit your free throws too, at least your defense it's all right. It's like middle of the pack. Um, it does help that at least they hit the league average in terms of age. So maybe they can figure some things out and beat some of the younger teams, right? maybe. But in terms of this Sky team, not gonna lie to you, keep it very brief. They got a couple X factors. The main one is Rebecca Gardner, their point guard. Because again, I stated their offense is not the best, but at least they can score. They can score a little bit. But my worry is more so the playmaking. You have Kalia Copper. Marina Mayberry is more so a shooter for me. She can play make. Rebecca Gardner is going to be that person who needs to run the offense. I don't need her to score as much. Set the team up properly. Run the defense or run the offense and then play good defense like I know she can do. That's my biggest X factor. Outside of that, you do have Marina Mayberry and Courtney Williams who need to provide that shooting touch. If they can't stroke that Tracy ball, it's going to be a little tricky for the Sky. Just saying. And finally, Isabel Harrison, Elizabeth Williams. One of y'all need to be the interior force that the Sky need. If y'all can do that, I'm telling you, the Sky are going to actually surprise myself. Because right now, I don't have them pegged as that high of a team. That's right. It's not going to be sky high. It's looking like a little low skies, a little cloudy. So maybe they can surprise me, but we're going to find out if I'm right. But hey, Sky, good luck to you. My Connecticut Sun starting five. Natisha Heidemann at the one, Tiffany Hayes at the two, Dewana Bonner at the three, Alyssa Thomas at the four, and Brianna Jones at the five. Now my bench unit is Nia Clouden at the one, Dejanay Carrington at the two, Rebecca Allen at the three, Lauren Cox at the four, and Olivia Nelson Ododa at the five. Now, the Connecticut Sun did lose Jonquel Jones and Jasmine Thomas last season. Now, to be fair, they didn't have Jasmine Thomas in the postseason, but still, losing those two players, it's a little tough. You got to replace that, and that's a lot. Also, they lost Courtney Williams, who was quite instrumental for their team last season in the postseason. So that's actually three players that you lost. And all three of them could get a bucket, okay? Now, when I'm looking at the Sun team, starters and bench unit, they are 5 out of 12 for me. So we're above average in terms of the Suns. That's right. We're not really losing too much ground from last season. Even though we lost those three key cogs, you're not losing a lot of ground. Like they're not going to be out of the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. In fact, surprisingly, they're one of the shorter teams. So expect them to be a little bit more in transition. Now, when I'm looking at this squad, I see a relatively experienced team. Um, they can score. Weirdly, they can't rebound as well as you would want them to, though. I'd need to see a little bit more improvement from that, right? But we should see that. We should see that as the season goes on. Which again, this is just based on my own predictions, and that actually kind of surprises me too. So I'm definitely going to be looking out for that. Then the blocks factor, the defense on the perimeter, we're looking cool. Interior, I could see a little increase. We could improve in that area as well. So again, rebounding, interior presence. I'm looking at the bigs, looking at the big women. All right. Also, they can't shoot threes too well. We always been improved. That's always been the Suns' Achilles heel. So based on these, where my X factors are gonna go. We got Brianna Jones for a multitude of reasons. Actually, is she going to be that all-star plus player for the Suns? If she can be, she's replacing Jonquel Jones. Now she doesn't have that Tracy ball that Jonquel does, but if she can shoot a little mid-range, extend that defense just enough. Now Alyssa Thomas can drive. Now Dewana Bonner can slash. Speaking of Dewana Bonner, hey, how's Dewana doing from Tracy? Like, is her and Tracy cool? Because I need her and Tracy to be good friends, at least respectable friends. Because if Dewana Bonner is hitting the three ball at a respectable clip, now you have three guards, at least three perimeter players who can keep the defense honest. And Brianna Jones and Alyssa Thomas can play interior, which are their strengths. So again, those are my X factors for the Sun. And I mean, Sun fans, it looks like the sun has not set just yet. My Dallas Wings starting five. Arika Ogumbawale at the 1. Diamond DeShields at the 2. Sato Sabali at the 3. Natasha Howard at the 4. And Tierra McCowan at the 5. Now, my bench for the Wings are Crystal Dangerfield at the 1. Lou Lopez Senechal at the 2. Maddie Seagreast at the 3. Awak Coulier at the 4. And Charlie Collier at the 5. Now, the Dallas Wings could be the most interesting team in the WNBA. Reason why I say that. The starting unit, they're number 4 for me. I like they're right there with the best of them, okay? The bench is number 9. So it's not trash. It's just not the best. Now, if I'm looking at the height, because I like my height, they number 1. Okay, so this is the tallest team in the WNBA, the Dallas Wings. That's kind of tough. Fun fact for y'all. Here's the thing. Right, we're gonna get down to the nitty gritty, right? Because you look at the box score, right? Points, blocks, steals, rebounds, all that good stuff. This team might be the most interesting because of the starters and the bench. When I look at the minutes played from last season, they're like 3rd in the league in terms of who played the most on average per player. So every player averaged about 18 minutes. That's kind of low. And that tells me they're bringing in a couple of new players, right? Some rookies, some 1-year players, right? So now we don't know how they're going to adjust to the WNBA season. Then when I look at this team scoring wise, they're not doing too bad. Like they actually at the top. And then rebounds, they could be doing a little better. I expect them to do a little bit better than number 7 for me. Playmaking always could improve. You number 9, I don't like that. Steals, I do assume that's going to go up as well. Like it's kind of like a random wave right now of where this Dallas Wings team could go. It could go left, it could go right. You could be contenders, you could be pretenders. Like that's what I'm seeing right now, especially when you look at the 3 ball. Like ladies, please let Tracy on the team, please. All right, you got to bring Tracy on the squad. If you don't have a Tracy ball in your disposal, it's going to be a very long 40-game season. Now, for the X factor, it's going to be the simple Sato Sabali and the bench, because I do believe the other players are going to be able to do their tasks. Now, the shooting aspect from everybody is a question mark. That's the biggest question mark outside of the bench. But if Sato's availability, that's 3rd for me. If Sato's availability is there, they're tough because she has been injury prone over the last few seasons. Couple that with the bench shooting. Now we can interchange the bench players, right, with some of the starters, give the starters some rest. Cool, you see their value now. Also, real quick, Natasha Howard, Arike Ogumbawale. Y'all just gotta straight get a bucket. Like that, there's no way around it. You're the best scorers on the team. Go do what you do. And I'm not saying you can't defend. I'm just saying you're the best scorers on the team. And then Diamond DeShields and Tierra McCowan, hey, guess what? Y'all got to defend your asses off because you're the best defenders on your team. I'm not saying y'all can't score. You're all good two-way players. I'm just saying if we're going to attribute roles, I personally believe y'all should focus on defense. But that's me. Still go get a bucket because you're more than capable. But again, that's why I say this Wings team is so interesting. Because again, I've stated this before, they can rival the Aces and Liberty, who are the 2 super teams of the WNBA, right? This team can rival them. We just got to see how the bench factors out and the shooting and Sato's availability. And I'm not trying to focus. I'm just saying because the injury passed. Like that's the only thing. Best ability is availability. But pay attention to the Dallas Wings because they're a good team to watch. My Indiana Fever starting five. Erica Wheeler as my number one. Kelsey Mitchell as my number two. Victoria Vivens as my number three. Nalissa Smith as my number four. And Aaliyah Boston as my number five. Now, my Indiana Fever bench: Destiny Henderson at number one. Maya Caldwell at number two. Christy Wallace at number three. Queen Egbo at number four. And Bernadette Hattar at number five. Now, the Indiana Fever, they have been drafting relatively high over the last couple years. You got Alyssa Smith at number two. You got Leah Boston at number one. It's about time you start making a trend in the upper direction, right? And I gotta admit, when I look at this team, they don't look too bad. Now, from the starter perspective, they're number 8. Now, from the bench perspective, they're number 7. And again, fun fact, I like my team with height. They're the third shortest team in the league. So that could be tough because there are some big gals out there in the league that actually do dominate. But one thing that this Indiana Fever team does have is balance. Like when I look across all the box scores, right? You got the points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, all that good stuff. Compared to the other WNBA teams, they're relatively on par with the lower ranked playoff teams. That could give you something to think about. Like maybe the Fever are finally on that track record. Now, to be fair, one huge knock for them is they are a really young team. All right, like this squad could pose. They could have some trepidations around the way just because of the youth. You have a couple of rookies. You got a couple of first-year players. Like a lot might be expected of these young gals. So my X factors for this Fever team is quite simply this. Nalissa Smith, it's early, right? But from a guard perspective, like they're kind of, I told y'all they're the third shortest team in the league. So that means they are probably guard oriented. So if that's the case, I'm going to need Nalissa Smith to be my X factor defensively. Offensively, she was solid. Gave me 13 points, 7, 8 rebounds last year. Keep that. She shot well from the field and the three ball. Free throws could be improved, 65%. We got to up that a little bit. But it's first year. We'll see how it goes. All in all, her defense is what's going to be needed. She's a solid defender. Again, perimeter-oriented players. And you got Aaliyah Boston to help out. You also got Queen Egbo to help out as well. But if she's the defensive anchor, which I think she can be, the Fever could be a little tough. So let's wait and see how that goes. And I know I got to bring up the number one pick in this year's draft, right? Aaliyah Boston. Why didn't I say her? It's the first year. And to be honest with you, I'm just looking to see if Aaliyah Boston can definitively and outright beat out Queen Egbo for that starter spot. Just because she's the number one draft pick don't mean you just get the starter spot. And Queen Egbo's no slouch. Like defensively, she's top notch. Offensively is the only reason why I say Aaliyah Boston even got drafted there. So again, it's an uphill battle for Aaliyah Boston on her own team. Next season, she'll probably be an X factor, but this season, it's definitely Nalissa Smith. Either way, both are key cogs for this team's future going forward. So the Fever, y'all might want to watch out because this team could get a little hot. My Los Angeles Sparks starting five. Jordan Canada as my one. Jasmine Thomas as my two. Nneka Ogwumike as my three. De'Erica Hamby as my four. Azure Stevens as my five. Now, my Sparks bench. Lashia Clarendon as my one. Lexi Brown as my two. Crystal Bradford as my three. Katie Lou Samuelson as my four. And Shanae Ogwumike as my five. Now, I got to say, this team is my personal team. So there's going to be some bias with this bad boy. I'm sorry, this bad girl. See what I did there. So I gotta say here, when I did my projections, right, based on my own system, can't hold you. I was a little bit surprised. Let's talk about it, shall we? From a starter perspective, this Sparks team looks to be around 7 out of 12. So that's not bad. The bench is what surprised the hell out of me. Can't even hold you because we are number one. And I can't lie, last year when I did something kind of similar to this, we were number one last year, and you saw how it panned out. Except that was not really talent based, our production meaning. Like we lost because so much crap happened to us. Like you just who foresaw that, right? So when I'm looking at the team, and fun fact, because I like my team with height, we are the second tallest team in the league. Talk to me. Anyways, when I look at this team, they a little old, right? Like they're actually much older than the average age. So hopefully we're not in transition too much. But we can score the ball pretty decently. All right, maybe I lied. We probably in the low. We at least enough to get into the playoffs. Now, where we do work wonders is the rebounds, right? Could use a little bit of help on the assists. And surprisingly, we down on the blocks. Here's what I'm saying. And free throws is a disgrace. Whoa, we're last? 62%, ladies. We got to change that. Like, we can't be shooting 62 as a team. That's so disgusting. Look, y'all just heard the box scores, right? The points, rebounds, assists, block steals, and how they compare to the other WNBA teams. Here are my X factors for my Sparks. Outside of all 12, outside of all 12, I don't want to say Nneka Ogwumike because that's going to be everybody's answer, right? Why not Jasmine Thomas? Because she could actually help Nneka Ogwumike. Nneka's the star of our team. So if Jasmine Thomas, who is coming off of a ACL injury, if I'm not mistaken, that's a little tough to come back from. So if she can come back to form, we have something. We cooking. And I mean, that could be a little biased too. I mean, she did go to Duke, and y'all know I'm a Duke fan. But she can hoop. And then how about, well, I did say our rebounds and blocks were a little bit, on one hand, good, but on the other hand, off. Well, the newcomers, Azare Stevens and De'Arica Hamby, y'all are my X factors as well. Because if y'all play really well, guess what? Nneka don't have to do everything offensively and defensively. Now she doesn't tire out. Again, she's our best player. Make it easier for her. That makes it easier for the team to get success for the playoffs. And we are an older team. So we should be able to understand roles in order to thrive, in order to succeed. And finally, I'm going to give Jordan Canada some love. If she is the playmaker I know she can be, remember she was studying behind Sue Bird. Again, Nneka does not have to play make. She doesn't have to. Jasmine Thomas can just focus on scoring. Doesn't have to force a lot. Less injury or less wear and tear on someone who's coming off injury. So again, those are my X factors for my Sparks. And if they play well, hey, I'm just saying, y'all might want to watch out for my Sparks. We could shock some folks. See what I did there? The Las Vegas Aces. First and foremost, can we give them some love? They are defending champions, right? So let's go ahead and give them their credit, their flowers. Now, my Las Vegas Aces starting five: Chelsea Gray at the 1, Kelsey Plum at the 2, Jackie Young at the 3, Asia Wilson at the 4, and Candace Parker at the 5. Now, my Las Vegas Aces bench: Alexis Peterson at the 1, Sydney Colson at the 2, Raquana Williams at the 3, Alicia Clark at the 4, and Kia Stokes at the 5. Now, again, defending champs, right? And they added Candace Parker. Like, I thought the Sky were going to be a potential threat this season. And they said, nope, sorry, we're going to take their best talent away from them. So when I look at this team, Starter-wise, we already know they're one of the best, if not the best, right? My ranking, they're number 2. So you can assume who number 1 going to be, right? Well, the bench actually is kind of surprising. They're number 6. So again, elite starters, about average bench. All right, that's cool. And again, fun fact, I like my teams with a little height on them. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But this team is the 3rd shortest in the league. So we're assuming they're guard oriented, right? Now, when I'm talking about this team, also like to point out the fact that they have a lot of experience on them. They're a little older team. So probably don't want to be in transition too much, but they are guard oriented. So I'm thinking either transition, fast break, right? Or you're efficient in the half court. Scoring wise, we know where they are, upper echelon, right? Rebounds, they're top notch. The tricky part with the Aces, I'm going to just cut straight to it, it's the field goal percentage. These girls are actually number 10 out of 12 in the WNBA. So, at least for me. So if I'm looking at that, I'm like, damn, that's kind of tough. Like, you short already, at least you get rebounds. And to be fair, they are really good at 3 points and number 1 in free throw percentage. So they don't squander too many moments. I also said they are an older team, so they're experienced. So I'm expecting the Aces obviously to do well, but they could trip up a little bit. Don't be too surprised. Don't be too surprised. But a lot of this season is going to hinge on some X factors. And again, they did bring in Candace Parker. I talked about Candace Parker. They got Asia Wilson. That's the reigning MVP, right? You got Kelsey Plum, the All Stars MVP, right? You got Chelsea Gray, the point guard of the WNBA. It's Jackie Young. Jackie Young is the X factor for the Aces. I just listed off a whole bunch of people, right, who probably need the ball in their hands. Maybe not Candace Parker as much, but Jackie Young is probably going to be that small forward, and that's a critical role because she's going to have to be a two-way, versatile player. At some point in time, she's going to have to guard someone like Breanna Stewart, or maybe an electric guard because maybe Kelsey Plum, you don't want to tie her out. Chelsea Gray can, but again, 5'10", 6 foot, there's a little bit of a difference. So I think Jackie Young, if she plays extremely well, especially the way she played at the beginning of last season, where she was at the MVP, she was in the MVP race, Aces might take it this year. But if not, there is a vulnerability. Also, since we mentioned earlier, Asia Wilson, you got to dominate again because there is another team on the East that got a beast as well. So you got to show you top dog in the WNBA because if you do that, it makes the Aces a little bit easier. Hey, there's not as much focus on Kelsey Plum, so maybe she continues to get that 20-point a game. Just saying, that matters a lot. Gravity matters a lot. But again, Aces, you are defending champs, so we got to put some respect on your name. I'm not saying you lucky just because you was in Vegas, but we gonna find out if y'all are lucky this season because luck don't happen 2 times in a row. Not too often, at least. Not too often. My Minnesota Lynx starting 5. Kayla McBride at the 1. Ariel Powers at the 2. Diamond Miller at the 3. Nafisa Collier at the 4. And Jessica Shepard at the 5. Now, my Minnesota Lynx bench. Lindsay Allen at the 1. Rachel Banham at the 2. Tiffany Mitchell at the 3. Bridget Carlton at the 4. And Damiris Dantas at the 5. Now, I got to say, the Lynx lost a lot, okay? Sylvia Fowles, we know who you are. Leading rebounder in WNBA history. Come on now. Like, rival of Candace Parker. Like, there's so many things we can say. I'm going to just speed on past this. We respect you, though. Love you. Miss you. The Lynx are missing a lot. Now, from a starter perspective, when I look at my projections, I got to say this. The starters are actually on the lower end of the WNBA. Like they're 10 out of 12. Now their bench is where they actually get a little help because they're 3 out of 12 for me. And fun fact, the Lynx, they are the fourth shortest team in the league. That's kind of tough. It's kind of weird actually when you think about it. Because again, we had Sylvia Fowles on the squad. It's crazy. It's not really much experience, but they got some experience though. They got a lot of youth. This is tricky. This is a tricky team because, well, hey, they can score. They just can't block. Like they just can't really defend well. And you need defense in the NBA. You need defense in the WNBA. You need defense if you playing basketball. Period. Point blank. And when you can't defend too well, yeah, you might be able to beat some teams, especially when you have experience and you got a little youth as well to kind of rejuvenate some people. Um, I don't know if that's going to be successful for this season. So a lot of things hinge on their X factors, actually, the Lynx X factors. And for me, it's these two players. Nafisa Collier, I know she was pregnant at one point in time, came back, trying to shake off the rust. You saw some flashes of her return back to form. Let's see if she can get back to that form. Because if she can, oh, they got a hooper on her now. All right, on their team now. She can get a bucket. She can defend. She's a very versatile player. But the other X factor is who they just drafted with the number 2 pick, Diamond Miller. Have you heard about her? Because she can get a bucket as well. And when I'm looking at her, she can play the 3 or the 4, especially if you want to go small ball. So these two players, it's can you return to form and then an evaluation period. If both of them check out well, the Lynx might do a little better than what I'm projecting. If not, and it's a little bit of a hiccup, all right, cool. We could see the Lynx again as a top 3 draft pick team. But hey, we got to find out. These Lynx, they could have some bite. Get it? Because they never. No? Okay, never mind. My New York Liberty starting 5. Courtney Vandersloot at the 1. Sabrina Ionescu at the 2. Benaje Laney at the 3. Brianna Stewart at the 4. And Jonquel Jones at the 5. Now, my New York Liberty bench. Epiphany Prince at the 1. Maureen Johannes at the 2. Dee Dee Richards at the 3. Stephanie Dolson at the 4. And Han Su at the 5. Now, we all know this New York Liberty team is quite a stout one. You look at the starters. Obviously, they're going to be a top 2 starter team, right? I said the Aces were number 1. I said the Aces were number 2. They're number 1. So, the starting unit, cool. The bench, number 4 for me. Out of 12, by the way. This is out of 12. Oh, and to note, their numbers, I like my team with height. They number 7 in height. And, 7 is one of my favorite numbers. So, when I look at this team, this New York Liberty team, it's not looking too bad. It's telling me you're a little versatile, you're balanced, and you look pretty damn dominant. Also, they they're not too old. Like they can adjust with and adapt with the young guns if they need to run, or the older crowd if they want to be more in transition. Then again, let's look at the box scores, right? Like the points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, all that good stuff. They're they're at the top of the heap in every one of them. Like they are top 4 in everything except free throws. So pretty much that's the vulnerability. If you can stay close, you got a shot against the Liberty. But you got to play perfect in order to beat these girls, and that's a tough task too. But if you got the talent, you can do that though. So again, free throws is what is going to take to knock this team off. You got to stay with them. That means you got to have the talent. And if you can do that, that's pretty scary. Well, for me, I'm gonna be honest with you. Every team I've been given an X factor. I don't know what the X factor is for the Liberty. I mean, their starting five is easily the best. Easily. X factor is health. Like as long as they're healthy, they're good. Now, they gonna need Brianna Stewart to snap. Sabrina Ionescu got to show up. Courtney can't slouch. You know what I'm saying? John Quell. If I got to pick anybody, it might be John Quell. Because if John Quell Jones can dominate, oh my God, that's ridiculous. Just imagine if John Quell Jones is dominating the WNBA and Brianna Stewart is a second option in terms of production. That's disgusting. So maybe John Quell is the X factor, but they have so much put on their team, bro. It's not really much. They just need to be healthy come into season, honestly. So the Liberty, yeah, they're a fan favorite, and I understand why. And I just broke down why they should be one of the best scoring teams, one of the best defending teams. They can play make the hell out of the ball too, and then they shoot the ball pretty well from the field as well as the Tracy zone. So again, Liberty, you this might be the first time New York fans can say bing bong and it actually have some relevance. Maybe the Liberty can take on that trend. Who knows? We can see what it shakes. My Phoenix Mercury starting five. Mariah Jefferson at the one, Skylar Diggins Smith at the two, Di- Diana Taurasi at the three, Brianna Turner at the four, and Brittany Griner at the five. Now, my Phoenix Mercury bench: Shea Petty at the one, Sophie Cunningham at the two, Michaela Onuare at the three, Megan Gustafson at the four, and Kylie Shook at the five. Now, this Phoenix Mercury team is still headlined by the big three. But Brittany Griner has taken a little bit of a step forward right in that big three spotlight. So obviously they should have a relatively good starting unit. Um, when I say relatively good, I mean for me they're number three. So that starting unit when that starting unit is playing, they can run with the best of anybody. The bench unit looking a little suspect. I got them at number 11, and again, this is out of 12. And again, for the fun fact, because I like my height, um, they're the fourth tallest team in the WNBA. So you're relying on height a little bit. You have some dynamic guards, okay? You have some production. This team really can go pretty far. I'm not even gonna hold you. They are a little bit older, just a little bit, but it's still relatively within the same realm as the WNBA average. So they can run with the young guns, or they can play half court with the old seasoned veterans, right? And then when I'm looking at a scoring perspective, this really the offense and defense actually is where it gets a little tricky. Now, they're not really that good at either, which is weird. Now, granted, last season these are based on last year's stats too, so that it's kind of skews it a little bit. The Mercury did not have BG. Diana Taurasi was out, and then Skylar Diggins Smith had her issues, right? So now we're assuming that this trio will resume and take form to what we've seen in the past, or somewhere close to that, right? They can do anything close to that. Maybe we have something to look out for. Maybe these numbers like change a little bit because you got to think, right? The offense from this trio alone should produce tremendous production. And in the defense, you have Brittany Griner on your squad. You're going to be able to defend the hell out of any team. So I got to assume this will change a little bit. And that leads me to my X factor. It's the big three. If the big three can actually dominate the way they've been in the past, well, I mean, the Phoenix Mercury are a scary team, and you got to watch out for them. I understand Brittany Griner just came off a really weird situation, an unfortunate situation, and that might be an injustice on how I label that. It was stupid what happened, but with that time off, Can she return back to that dominance? Hey, is it going to affect her mentally? Like we got to worry about those sorts of things. Also, Skylar Diggins Smith, she had some issues with the Mercury last season, and then Diana Taurasi, while great, she is still old. The White Mamba, she been hooping, but Father Time is undefeated. So this big three, if they can dominate, the Mercury have a shot. And like every team, health, matters, but this one specifically matters because if one of the big three go down, it's going to be a long season for the Mercury. So, the Mercury, it hinges on two things: health and the big three. Let's see what happens. And, shout out to BG. Glad you back home. Let's go Mercury, even though I'm a Sparks fan. My Seattle Storm starting five: Sammy Whitcomb at the 1, Jewel Lloyd at the 2, Kia Nurse at the 3, Ezzy Magabor at the 4, and Mercedes Russell at the 5. Now, my bench for the Seattle Storm: Maddie Williams at the 1, Yvonne Turner at the 2, Ariel Giantes at the 3, Jordan Horston at the 4, and Teresa Plassance at the 5. Now, the Seattle Storm lost a lot. You lose Sue Bird to retirement. You lose Brianna Stewart to the New York Liberty. So you're thinking rebuild, possibly, best case, retool. And, I mean, you do keep Jewel Lloyd, who's a solid player. When I say solid player, one of the better players in the WNBA. So you got something to work with, right? Something to build with. Um, here's here here's my thing. Here's my thing. The Seattle Storm across the board, like they're kind of at the back. Like for me, they're at the bottom. And again, I said across the board. So that's tough. Fun fact though, when we're looking at height, yeah, they're the shortest. That's tough too. Damn. It's just like at least they got some experience. Like at least their experience is on par with the average for the WNBA. It's just that man, they don't have enough to get over the hump. So maybe some games they'll be entertaining. Maybe some games they just will be flat out disappointing. And you might think, damn, I want more for Jewel Lloyd. She might be in a Damian Lillard situation. So this brings me to my X factors, right? Because I said rebuild, retool earlier. So you might be thinking now, rebuild. Like there's nothing really good that they did. The blocks were average, but that was the best thing in terms of my rating system. So you got to bring in new blood, and you got to look at what you got on the team. So your building blocks are Jewel Lloyd and Jordan Horston. Those are my X factors, ladies and gentlemen. Like if Jewel Lloyd shows, okay, well, she wants to be there still. She wants to build the Seattle Storm back to what they once were, which was literally just last season. Like you might have something there because she gonna hoop. She gonna get a bucket. And then you gotta look at Jordan Horston, who's 6'2". She naturally will probably play the three, but she can play small ball. So now you have two versatile wings. That's something you can always work with. Everybody needs some versatile wings. So the development of Jordan Horston and really just the appeal of the Storm to Jewel Lloyd, your star player, who I do believe is under contract until 2024. So if she wants to re-sign, cool. Got to make sure your organization looks appealing enough for her to do so. So that's why I say the development of Jordan Horston is an X factor because they are in a rebuild tool. So the Seattle Storm, I'm sorry, Seattle, it will get a little stormy this season. It might, but the future might not be that bad. We'll find out though. My Washington Mystics starting five: Natasha Cloud at the 1, Christy Tolliver at the 2, Elena Deladon at the 3, Maisha Hines Allen at the 4, and Shakira Austin at the 5. Now, My Washington Mystics bench: Shatori Walker Kimbrough at the 1, Ariel Atkins at the 2, Brittany Sykes at the 3, Tiana Hawkins at the 4, and Amanda Zalby at the 5. Now, I got to say, the Mystics, they are returning a decent amount of players that they had last season. And let's not forget, they were the 4th or 5th seed. Off memory, I'm forgetting. I want to say 4th. We'll see what happens if I'm right. But no, they were 5th. They were 5th. They were 5th. I mean, yeah, they were 5th. I'm right on that one, I think. I'm positive. Anyways, that was last season. This season, it's a little bit different, just a little bit. Now, if you're looking at the starters, I personally say they got a solid starter unit. Okay, the systems say average, but I think they got a solid starting unit. We'll see how it goes though. The bench was actually quite surprising because it's number 2 in the WNBA. So if that bench is actually producing at that rate, that means if the starters do take a step back, hey, guess what? You can interchange some of the bench players and still keep rolling. You might even be playing a little bit better. And speaking of playing better, fun fact too, they are the 3rd tallest team. So that tells me you're not going to beat them with height, and they might have a little versatility. And when I say they do have a little versatility. And they also got a good amount of experience as well. That's fun to note. Now, they're not the fastest team, right? They can go fast, but it's best for the Mystics to be in a half court setting. Personally, just based on age, and then from a scoring perspective, all right, they could use a little bit of an improvement on the scoring tip, but their defense is actually pretty good. So when I'm looking at that, I'm telling myself they can stop folks. So as long as they can score, that's actually going to be beneficial come playoffs because things get a little tighter in playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So if the Mystics can actually score just a little bit better, they'll be all right. Playmaking, they look good. Here's where they lose me, and it goes back to the scoring. The field goal percentage, the 3-point percentage, and the free throws, all at the bottom of the WNBA. Not at the very bottom, but they in the lower tier. They're in the lower third of the WNBA in all those categories. You gotta change that because again, the playoffs. Yes, you need defense, but you also need to score the ball. You gotta get a bucket, and if you gotta get a bucket efficiently too, you can't sit up there and just keep scoring or keep jacking and hope that you're gonna stop because somebody's gonna score on you at some point in time. So that brings me to my X factor: Shakira Austin and the development of her game. If she actually can get to all-star level, the Mystics have something because you have a good team. And again, this is based on last year's stats. So I'm assuming she is going to get closer to all-star level. All-star level, hey, we got to wait and find out. I know some people who do believe she's going to be all-star. I'm not saying she can't. It might just be a year early. Just might be one more year early. That's all. That's all. And then obviously Elena Delle Donne and her health. As long as she's healthy, the team gonna be looking straight. But they have a really good team. The scoring aspect is where they got to evolve. And that's where I'm looking at this team to take that next step, be a lot more efficient, actually. So the Mystics, hey, can y'all pull some wizardry unlike the Washington Wizards and, shoot a little bit better, score a little bit more? I appreciate it. Thank y'all.